Communication is just the way we exchange information or ideas. This can happen in many different ways, like talking, writing, or even gestures or facial expressions. Language in itself, on the other hand, is a specific way of communicating using words. It's what we use to express ourselves and understand each other. Now, let me give you an example of how communication and language work together. Imagine you are at a party and you want to tell someone that you're having a good time. You could communicate this by smiling and nodding your head. But if you want to use language, you might say something like, I'm really enjoying this party. You see how that works? Language helps us to be a little bit more specific in our communication, but in the end, whether you're using language, some other form of communication, the most important thing is that we are able to get our message across to the other person. As a teacher of English as a second language, I often hear my students ask if they need to have an extensive vocabulary in order to communicate well in English. The answer is both yes and no. Now, having a broad vocabulary can certainly help you to express yourself more precisely and to understand other people better. With a wider range of words available, you can have a better accuracy to convey your thoughts and your emotions. And you can understand more complex texts and conversations. But it's also important to remember that vocabulary is just one aspect of communication, okay? Even if you don't understand every word in the English language, that would be crazy. You can still communicate effectively by using words and phrases that you do know, and by using nonverbal cues like facial expressions and gestures. Using simple language can sometimes be way more effective than using complicated language. Now, if you try to use words that you don't fully understand, you run the risk of confusing your listener or making a mistake in your grammar. So, what should you do? I would suggest that you focus on building your vocabulary gradually over time. But don't worry too much about knowing every word. That's not how language acquisition works. Just try to focus on using the words that you do know in a way that you can make yourself understood. And you also need to remember effective communications is more than just words. It's also about tone, body language, and context.